Welcome to Lab Life with the Air Force Research Laboratory.
Hi, I'm Michelle.
And I'm Kenneth.
Today we are joined by Nick Ripplinger, the president of Battlesite Technologies. His teams make glow-in-the-dark crayons and aren't afraid to fail fast and move on.
In 3, 2, 1.
Well, listeners, for the first time ever, we're going to kick off the podcast with a hoorah.
Hoorah! Is that right?
Yeah, close.
We're here with Nick Ripplinger of Battlesite Technologies. Nick, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having us. It's awesome. I've loved following your success and listening to the show, so it's pretty surreal being on.
It's pretty awesome to see the workshop here. Can you kind of describe the space we're sitting in, kind of what the production looks like right now?
Yeah, so we're kind of sitting on top of each other because we've seen some pretty big growth in 2019, but we've got a full about 60 feet worth of production line for the Craytac product line. We've got an R&D lab. We've got a prototyping area for our Nightfall product line, and we're sitting in our office at a conference table.
We also heard this conference table has a unique history. Can you kind of go into that as well?
Yeah, so when we first started Battlesite in 2017, early 2018 time, we started off in a co-working shared place that the Air Force owned the other half of, so it was pretty nice being in the same room as your customer most of the days. But this table is where we laid all the groundwork and got everything lined up to kind of see the growth that we've had. And so we had the opportunity to purchase the table. It's kind of a must-have for us.
Absolutely. It's a very nice table, too, so it's cool to see it's able to go with you guys to continue that story. Exactly.
So, I don't know. Like, being in the military, you always focus on your history and where you came from, so this is kind of a way to do that here in our business.
So let's talk about that. We got the hoorahs out of the way, but you're an Army veteran, right? And what was your life like in the service? What did you do within the Army?
Yeah, so I loved my time in the Army. I feel like it kind of got cut short. Got injured in 2009 and medically retired in 2011. But the majority of my time was spent overseas between Europe, Iraq, Afghanistan, and I worked for NATO and just got to travel the world and make sure nobody killed the boss.
So with that experience then, you kind of touched on a lot of the products you're working on here, a lot of recovery-related products. How has that influenced you building products for the warfighter?
Yeah, so I think, the field time and the combat time and the training time in the military really has, we're able to carry that voice of customer into Battlesite. We've deployed, 4 or 5 times. I had footlockers of stuff that we never opened. We just took worthless gear down range. And so kind of one of our mantras, if you would, is we don't want to develop anything that the warfighters aren't actually going to use. So we want to save weight and waste and time and actually provide a valuable product that's going to make these warfighters' lives easier.
The reason we're at Battlesite Technologies today is because your company has taken an Air Force Research Laboratory developed, idea and patent, and you've licensed it. And how did that happen? And what are you doing with that license?
Yeah, so without AFRL, there wouldn't be a Battlesite, if we're just being honest with you. So Dr. Larry Brott out of RX, the Materials and Manufacturing Directorate, got some funding to develop this writable chem light. It was a problem we were having while I was downrange as well, so it's kind of cool to see the whole story come together. But really partnering with AFRL and licensing that technology is what propelled Battlesite. And not even just the license aspect, but when we hit some technical challenges, we went back to AFRL and said, hey, we can't figure this out. We're having some issues with a specific problem. And then we executed a CRADA, or a Cooperative Research and Development effort, and then to continue that relationship. So we had a contractual relationship for free flow of information that really propelled the product to be what it is today.
And when you talk about the technology, if I simplify it, what it looks like to me is like maybe a crayon or stick that I can go right on this wall right now, and if I turn out the lights and I had night vision goggles, it actually glows and I can see what I wrote. Absolutely.
The core of the technology is chemiluminescence, like you would think of in any traditional glow stick that you break and shake and it glows. So we microencapsulate one of those chemicals, so it's put in millions of tiny little water balloons, if you would, into the stick. It's paraffin based, so it is exactly like a crayon. I always joke I make crayons for a living, and the responses are hilarious. But yeah, so it's a way just to communicate in low light, no light tactical situations while remaining invisible to the enemy.
You touched a little bit on the application, but what would be some direct ways that, from your experience in the field, that you would have used this crayon, I guess?
Yeah, so I think the use cases have expanded a lot over the last couple years since we've been out prototyping and doing field testing. It was originally designed for that close quarters combat mission where you're going to go kick in a door and go room by room and kill or capture whoever needs killed or captured. And right now we leave a chem light. And then once the whole facility's locked down, we come back in reverse, grab up all the intel, and leave another chem light. But chem lights, thanks to gravity, fall to the ground, they roll under things, and we're wasting a lot of time looking for these, where now we can just mark at eye level. When we first started off, we thought that was kind of the only use case, but now the medics are talking about how they can use it to triage a patient under blackout conditions so they're not turning on white lights and giving away their location. EOD guys, the bomb disposal guys, are using it to breadcrumb their way into a potential IED site so they know what's the safe path to go. And the thing I love the most about getting out in the field and talking to these guys is everybody has their own little twist on how they can use it, and the use case has just expanded significantly over the last 24 months.
And how much does this actually save on in comparison to using traditional chem lights?
Yeah, so the one CRATAC gives you about 2,000 linear feet of writing, and we kind of equate that to 1,000 chem lights, because if you think of like doing an X for 2 chem lights,
yeah,
on average you're going to write like 12 to 18 inches. So that's how we kind of calculated that.
That is a lot.
So you're saving some weight too for our guys.
Yeah, so one CRATAC weighs less than 2 traditional chem lights. So if you compare about, carrying 1,000 chem lights to basically the weight of 2.
Yeah, that's significant. When our service members' packs are already really, really heavy.
Yeah, that's like uncomfortably heavy. And then you start thinking about like the long-term care issues of back problems and knee problems that are all funded through the VA, that any weight that we can reduce, has this, massive multiplier effect down the road.
Sure. And how did you come to hear about our scientist technology that was available for licensing?
Yeah, so that was, a phenomenal relationship we had within the community with the Entrepreneur Center. The president of the Entrepreneur Center, Scott Korndike, actually brought this technology to us, knowing my background, and he thought it'd be a good fit. We fell in love with it and picked it up and ran with it.
And can you talk about some like the process of like what did running with it mean? Like,
yeah,
there's a process you apply, or
so that was interesting. Never doing this before in my life, and never we heard about it one day, and then that afternoon we went to go execute. I'm like, let's go figure out how to do this. So luckily we got partnered up with Sunita, who was amazing. She was kind of like the license agent, or her title's Orta, but
yeah, she helps with our tech transfer agreements.
Yeah, exactly. And she was a total rock star during the process, and walked us through baby steps. She, the Air Force has certain due diligence they have to do on a potential company that's going to take their tech. They want to make sure that that company is going to be successful. We needed to do some due diligence on our end to really understand the state of the technology. And it was honestly a fairly seamless process. It took about 6 months back and forth with documents and reviews and meetings, and really just understanding from both sides what it looked like. And then we went back earlier this year to go get another license, and that got done in like 2 months because we've already been through the process. So
wow, that's fast.
Yeah, it was very fast. And again, we worked with Sunita on that because it was coming out of the manufacturing and materials directorate. And I think anything in business is all based off relationships, and I think we were able to prove some minor success with the CRATAC, that it seems like a no-brainer for the Air Force and for Battlesight to kind of expand the product line that way.
Yeah, and from our perspective, the Air Force cares because we're not in the business of manufacturing glow-in-the-dark crayons, for a better word, And not totally glow-in-the-dark, I guess glow-in-the-dark if you have night vision goggles. That's the real differentiator, because you have to have that to see the technology and what's been marked or cleared or whatever message that you're using the technology for.
Absolutely.
And touching on those partnerships, so we, after walking through the workshop, saw a multitude of other uses for a lot of this, like the IR powders. So how are you using this to help save and recover airmen who may be lost at sea or beyond? Yeah,
so we've taken the core chemistry of the CRATAC and turned it into an IR sea dye marker. So we just got back from Japan a couple weeks ago out at Kadena Air Force Base, and we're doing some testing, got some phenomenal results. But kind of touch on the partnerships is we participate in Tech Warrior, which is ran by the SIBR office a lot. Like, we try to hit every one of them. And the relationships that come out of there and how we can incorporate, some of our other technologies into existing products that, an edge protection system, for instance, that is saving people's lives by not tearing up their ropes. But if they're doing mountaineering at night, can we make that glow so they can see their rope and make sure it's in the right place? Just working with other companies on how we can, pull their technology and our technology and make, a superior product for these warfighters who are putting everything on the line.
And are these companies that reach out to you then, or do you kind of find these products, like you mentioned, saying, hey, we can help this?
I'd say it's a mixed bag, to be honest with you. We've definitely reached out to some companies, and some other companies have reached out to us. And if it's a good fit, just lower your head and run through that brick wall and figure out how to make it.
That's phenomenal. So with some of the products we saw then, I kind of mentioned recovery in the ocean, but you have, if I understand correctly, there's a sea dive that already exists, and you guys have augmented, or?
Yeah, so there's a daylight sea dive marker that dives the water around the ocean for about 45 minutes, and it's great, and it works phenomenally well in daylight conditions, but you can't see it at night.
And when would the sea dive user be, or sea dive pack be used?
Yeah, so if a pilot or aircrew has to punch out of an airplane, or unfortunately, they have a tendency of crashing airplanes from time to time. So when an incident like that happens, and these airmen are out on the water, they can deploy the sea dive and hopefully speed up that recovery time. And really, time is of the essence. It's really the difference between rescue or recovery, and we want to rescue these guys, not recover.
Absolutely, because you said the current product out there that our forces are using, it lasts about 45 minutes and it can only be seen in the daytime. So that's really not, depending where you are in an ocean, that's really not a lot of time to find someone.
Exactly. So when we took that chemistry and created the Nightfall product line, we're providing 8 hours of infrared light that can be visible during the day with filters or at night through night vision goggles. Working with the 7-Eleventh right now on some augmented rescue vision type system. So then it can be cameras that's drone based, and the more assets you have, just the faster you're going to find these people.
So you're working with the human performance wing to make it more than just like your eyes, visual eyes looking for something, that you would have technology augment that search and specifically look for this bioluminescent
exactly
product.
And you can basically, I'm not a software guy, so I don't really understand what the 7-Eleven's doing, but it's pretty cool when you get to see it.
Absolutely.
That they've got it coded so it will tag the specific frequency and throw up a signal on this machine, so you can be like half asleep and this thing will start ringing bells and say, hey, IP found.
Oh wow,
That's wild. And going along those lines then, I'm kind of talking about the work you've done with other companies, working with the Air Force through SBIR. What has really helped BattleSight stick out? What has helped make you guys unique, outside of just, obviously, the amazing products you've talked about?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different things. I think the best thing that BattleSight's ever done is the team that we built around us. From the technicians to the rest of the leadership team at BattleSight has been huge. But I think, honestly, the relationships, kind of with my background, we can walk into a team room with a bunch of SEER guys and pitch them an idea. And we can go out and execute based off their feedback, or we can solicit other problems that they're having. This whole Nightfall product line came together while we were demoing the Craytac, and they asked us, hey, can you float this on water? I said, I have no clue. Let's go get a beaker of water. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And we got some minor successes that day in the lab, and we were able to win a phase 1 at the first pitch day up in New York. That transitioned to a phase 2, and then last month we were out in Okinawa testing a system on the ocean. So I think our speed, relationships, and then the team we have around us is what makes us unique.
And if you're bringing SEER specialists, so SEER specialists are survival, evasion, resistance, and escape specialists within our forces. So they're the ones that are they're the warfighter that's going to use this product. So you're getting direct feedback from them about what they need.
Absolutely.
Or ideas about applications of your product, because you might start out with Craytac and have one application, but you're showing that same sort of technology that AFRL developed can be applied in different ways, but they're thinking about it differently.
Absolutely. And I think another thing that we do really well here is we don't develop anything without an end customer's input. So we bring in these operators and these end users to tell us what's working right, what sucks, what needs to be modified, how can we make this better to meet more of their needs, and which kind of ties into those relationships as well.
Yeah, so it's very hands-on, where every step of the process, you want to make sure they're fully aware of what they're getting.
Absolutely, and we want their input, right? Because I don't want to have that footlocker, and they're like, oh, we're not not taking this out on mission.
Yeah,
We
don't
want
need
them.
this. So no, that makes perfect sense.
Well, you've been there. I mean, you're a veteran and you saw combat and you're applying it. I don't know. I feel sometimes some of the heart that you speak with, like when you gave us the tour about like this is about bringing someone home to their family. You know, the sea marker. You were saying, you know, there's instances where someone ejected from their plane and they're out there. We're searching for them, and you miss them because hypothermia set in before we could save them. But you hope that your product brings, you know, it gives us those minutes or those hours, you know, to get someone home faster.
Absolutely. I think that's the whole goal, right? We want to make our guys more lethal, and we want to keep them safer and make sure that they're never in a fair fight and that we're always in a position to win, whether that's finding a down pilot, whether that's doing that close quarters combat, whether that's signaling to make sure that there's no fratricide for friend-foe identification, just kind of anything in that IR space that's going to make these guys' lives easier.
An example for a lot of the warfighters out there, you did mention that you were working on, actually having ID tags on the, like either onto their kits that you could actually see in IR or augmenting that so you could see it at night?
Yeah, so the cold fire powder, the second batch of patents we licensed from RX, the whole initial intent was friend or foe identification. And much like the Craytac, the mission use has kind of really expanded when we've been out kind of talking to end users and soliciting feedback. But yeah, I mean, just knowing who's who on the battlefield, you can Google, air footage or airstrike footage, and everybody looks the same on the ground, right? It's just picking up the thermal images and now really knowing who to shoot and who not to shoot. Really, at the end of the
safety,
day,
like you mentioned.
Absolutely.
And we took some of the cold fire powder, your second kind of licensing opportunity with the Air Force, right?
Yeah.
And we took it into your dark room over here, and it's just this little plastic vial, and it's just glowing.
Yeah.
When we put on the night vision goggles, so you're actually taking that powder, putting it onto different films or something, or coatings to make shapes and words or just outlines.
Yeah, it's really probably one of our most versatile products because we can injection mold it, we can lay it in film, we can put it in tape, we can put it in paint. It's really not a form factor that we can't put this in.
I know we saw some, like you even had almost like light sticks or glow sticks that you can actually put UV light over and those glow. I mean, it lit up the dark room.
That acrylic, it has so much powder in there, and the acrylic really reflects the light well that you can light up a room.
Yeah, the powder itself, like I didn't realize how many uses it would have. I would assume it could be stuck to the chalk or, again, maybe something like lying tape, but I had no idea that it could be that versatile.
Yeah, I mean, it's massive, and it's super exciting to continue that relationship with AFRL and continue that relationship with some of our end users and really get this out in the field.
So kind of touching on that point then, speaking of the powder and beyond, what does the future of Battlesight Technologies look like for you guys?
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time flipping through the IP portfolio of the Air Force and other DoD labs and really looking for that next thing that's sitting on the shelf that could impact a warfighter tomorrow. And how can we take that out of these labs, rapidly commercialize it, productize it to improve the men and women's lives.
So at least do you have any message to other people that might want to do the same thing you're doing?
Yeah, I think there's so many great ideas and so many just wildly smart people that are in these labs doing research and developing and inventing that there's no shortage of great ideas out there. So I think if you're an established business looking to grow your product line, there's an opportunity to interact with the labs. Or if you're like me, who you want to start a business and you want to make an impact, but you're not a scientist, so this is a way that you can kind of beef up your IP portfolio and have the fundamental research to go productize something.
And something that I wanted to mention to you as well, looking on your on the website, I saw that you have written a book.
Yeah.
So
that was fun.
There's the frontline leadership. Kind of what military strategies do you use that, or kind of what this book covers? Do you have to help you be a better leader here in the workspace, or at least have you told other people?
Yeah, I think Chris, our COO, and myself, we reference our past experiences far more than we do our MBAs or undergrads or anything like that. And so, really, I wrote that book for these transitioning service members to say, hey, you have all these transitional skills. Like, let's write a book at the third grade level so everybody can comprehend it, and because that's about as good as the level I can write, and tell these funny stories. And then that almost anybody in the military can relate to, and then how can you apply that into the business world or leadership role, and like hopefully it can help transitioning veterans tell their story in a way that can make them more marketable.
Absolutely. That was you mentioned writing books not an easy process. So what did that kind of look like?
We wrote the whole book in 6 weeks. I won't lie.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So the process, we went out, we interviewed a couple publishers, we got a couple offers, and decided to go with one. Then we took a week off to celebrate, like, hey, I got this publishing deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it was like, oh my God, now I have to actually write this book. So it was a very fast process. It's very short chapters. We wanted to just keep it super light and fun read. Like so many business books, like the author wants to show how smart they are and how superior they are. So like when I'm reading a business book, I usually have a dictionary next to me trying to figure out what this person's saying.
Just got to make sure.
Yeah, so we just tried to do something a little different on that.
And you said this has directly fed back in your products and kind of the philosophy of Battlesight?
Yeah, it's 100%. It's kind of like our guiding principles here. I've had the privilege of serving with some great leaders that I learned so much from, and I had the unfortunate experience of serving with some leaders that weren't so great, but I think those leadership lessons were even more impactful, that I just wanted to make sure that we built the culture right and we take care of our people. My whole goal, which is not realistic, but is to have zero voluntary turnover here, from technicians all the way up to my role and everywhere in between. So something we preach here, and we actually try to do everything we can to keep our people happy.
Absolutely. From what I see from the team and what we've heard, it sounds like you have a very good family here almost. People
it
work
is.
very well together.
Yeah. We have a lot of fun. There's definitely bad days. It's science after all. Like certain stuff just doesn't work. But, we're not afraid to fail. And we're not afraid to empower our people to fail, because knowing what works is great, but knowing what doesn't work is also great. So
I can't make progress without a few missteps on the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of our motto here is fail fast and then move on to the next one. Then to get it to work, or fail fast again so we can move on to the third one.
Exactly.
It's kind of the life of R&D, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that puts it very well. So the last question we usually have for folks then, as we kind of wrap up, is if you have a favorite piece of Air Force technology or a favorite researcher that may have inspired you, or maybe even something you've worked on, something you'd like to promote.
Yeah, so I think I thought long and hard about this, so thank you for giving me this question in advance.
Of course.
There's just so many researchers out there. I don't think I've met a researcher at AFRL that I don't instantly fall in love with. Whether it's a computer scientist who's talking about stuff that I can't comprehend, or whether it's Larry Brott sitting out on our whiteboard drawing out the chemistry so I can comprehend it. There's just everybody there is amazing. But I think, when you look at our airframes, and like the F-35s and some of this new high-tech technology, it's amazing the capabilities that we have as a country, and the majority of that's coming out of these labs and these manufacturing partners and R&D partners. The whole ecosystem, I guess, is my favorite thing in the world right now.
Thank you so much for meeting with us today.
No, thanks for your time. Appreciate you guys coming and stopping by and visiting.
Yeah.
Of course.
Keep up the good work, keeping our men and women safe and getting home.
Thank you.
Make sure to follow us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube at AF Research Lab. And remember, stay curious.
Logging off.